My name is Mabel, and at 58 years old, I never imagined my own daughter would betray me like this. After 30 years of teaching, I thought I understood people, especially my Amanda. But that morning when my phone rang and the bank mentioned a $650,000 loan in my name, my world shattered. I always believed in trust and second chances, until I discovered the mortgage papers with my forged signature. What I did next surprised everyone, even myself. Let me know where you're watching from, and hit subscribe if you've ever had your trust betrayed by someone you love. I've lived in my modest 3-bedroom home in Portland for over 25 years. James and I bought it when Amanda was just 7 years old. We weren't wealthy by any means, but we were comfortable on our teaching salaries. James taught high school physics while I taught 4th grade at Lincoln Elementary. We saved carefully avoided debt and managed to pay off our mortgage 10 years ago, right before James died of a sudden heart attack. The day I lost James was the day Amanda stepped up in ways I never expected. She was 22 then, just finishing college. I remember how she handled all the funeral arrangements while I was lost in grief. She contacted family members, organized the service, and even made sure I ate and slept during those terrible first weeks. Her strength gave me the space to mourn, and our bond grew even stronger through that tragedy. Amanda was always our bright star. From the moment she was born, she showed a fierce determination. She walked early, talked early, and seemed to approach life with a confidence I'd never possessed. James used to joke that she got all our ambition combined and doubled. As an only child, she received all our attention and resources. We made sure she had dance lessons when she showed interest, then soccer, then photography in high school. Whatever sparked her passion, we supported. After college, Amanda went into real estate. She had a natural talent for it, charismatic, detail-oriented, and driven. Within 3 years, she was among the top agents at her firm, selling luxury properties to Portland's growing tech community. I was so proud watching her succeed. Her face on billboards around town made my heart swell. That was when she met Tom. He was charming and sophisticated, working as an investment advisor for a local firm. They seemed perfect together, both ambitious, both beautiful. When they married 4 years ago in an elaborate ceremony at the Sentinel Hotel, I thought Amanda had everything she'd ever wanted. I should have noticed the warning signs. The wedding was extravagant beyond their means. Amanda insisted on designer everything, from her $15,000 dress to the imported flowers. When I gently suggested scaling back, she snapped at me for the first time in her adult life. "Mom, this is my one special day," she said. "Don't you want me to have what all the other brides have?" I backed down immediately. James would have stood firm, but without him I found myself giving in to her more and more. I contributed $30,000 to the wedding, nearly depleting the emergency fund James and I had built. After the wedding, Amanda and Tom rented a luxury apartment downtown. Their furniture was all high-end, their vacations exotic. Instagram showed them dining at expensive restaurants weekly. I wondered how they afforded it all, but assumed Tom's investment career must be thriving. Looking back, I should have recognized the subtle changes in Amanda's behavior. Our weekly Sunday brunches became monthly, then sporadic. When we did meet, she was constantly checking her phone, distracted. She began dropping hints about investment opportunities that sounded too good to be true. Once she asked if I'd considered taking out a home equity loan to put my money to work. "Your father and I worked hard to pay off this house," I told her. "It gives me security knowing I own it outright." She rolled her eyes slightly. "Mom, that's old school thinking. Your money is just sitting there doing nothing." Last Christmas, things felt particularly strained. Amanda and Tom arrived late to dinner bringing expensive wine, but forgetting the homemade cranberry sauce they'd promised. Throughout the meal, they exchanged tense whispers. Tom stepped out for several phone calls, returning each time more agitated. When I asked if everything was all right, Amanda plastered on a bright smile. "Everything's perfect, Mom. Tom's just finalizing a big investment deal." In February, Amanda called asking if she could stop by to pick up her birth certificate and some childhood documents for organizing purposes. I didn't think twice about it. While she searched through the filing cabinet, I made us tea and caught up on her life. "Tom and I are thinking about buying a house soon," she mentioned casually. "That's wonderful." "In what neighborhood?" "West Hills, hopefully. We found a perfect place, but the market's competitive." I remembered feeling a flicker of concern. The West Hills was Portland's most expensive area, with homes starting around $2 million. But I pushed the thought away. Maybe Tom had received a substantial promotion. In March, Amanda began calling more frequently, asking unusual questions about my retirement accounts, whether I had updated my will recently, and if my house was still paid off completely. Each time I answered honestly, believing she was concerned about my financial security as I aged. "Don't worry about me," I assured her. "I've got my pension, some savings, and no mortgage. I'm set for retirement." "But don't you want more, Mom, to travel, to live a little?" Her words stung slightly. Was my life really so small in her eyes? In April, Amanda and Tom invited me to dinner at their apartment. Tom seemed oddly nervous, drinking too much wine and barely contributing to conversation. Amanda dominated the evening, talking rapidly about investments and real estate opportunities, houses they'd viewed, and a mysterious big change coming soon. Whenever I asked direct questions about this change, she skillfully changed the subject. As I was leaving, Amanda hugged me tightly. "I love you, Mom. You know that, right? Everything I do is for our family." Those words would echo in my mind just 2 weeks later when I received the phone call that changed everything. On a Tuesday morning in early May, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I might have let it go to voicemail, suspecting a telemarketer, but something made me answer. "Is this Mabel Harrington?" a professional woman's voice asked. "Yes, this is she." "Mrs. Harrington, this is Patricia Coleman from First National Bank. I'm calling about your mortgage application. We have a few additional questions before we can finalize approval." I gripped the phone tighter. There must be a mistake. I haven't applied for a mortgage. A pause. "We have an application submitted last week for a property on Westover Road for $650,000. The application has your Social Security number, income verification, and signature." My heart began racing. "That's impossible. I didn't sign anything like that." "Mrs. Harrington, this is concerning. The documentation appears complete, including copies of your identification and tax returns. Perhaps you authorized someone to act on your behalf." "Absolutely not," I said, my voice shaking. "This sounds like fraud." The bank representative's tone became more serious. "In that case, I suggest you contact the police immediately. We'll put a hold on this application, but you should check your credit reports right away for other unauthorized activity." After hanging up, I sat at my kitchen table trembling. Who would have access to all my personal information? The answer came immediately, but I pushed it away. Not Amanda. She wouldn't. I called the 3 credit bureaus to place fraud alerts on my accounts. The representative at Experian suggested I also contact other banks to see if additional applications had been submitted. Sure enough, 2 other mortgage companies confirmed applications in my name, all for the same property on Westover Road. That afternoon, I received mail that had been sent to my old email address, but forwarded to my current one. The sender was West Hills Realty, congratulating me on my upcoming home purchase and confirming the closing date 2 weeks from now. Attached were copies of documents I'd supposedly signed. I printed everything, my hands shaking as I examined the signatures. They were close to mine, but slightly off in the way the M curved and how the N finished. Someone who knew my signature well could have forged these. Someone like my daughter. I searched online for the Westover Road address. It was a stunning craftsman in Portland's most prestigious neighborhood, over 3,000 square feet, with a view of Mont Hood, listed at $2.4 million. The down payment would be my supposed loan. My stomach churned as pieces fell into place. Amanda's strange questions about my finances, the documents she'd collected from my files, the mysterious big change coming soon. I ran to the bathroom and vomited, overwhelmed by the betrayal. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced my house, the home where I'd raised Amanda, taught her right from wrong. I remembered sitting at the dining table helping her with homework, the discussions about honesty, when she once took money from my purse at age 8. Integrity means doing the right thing, even when nobody's watching. I'd told her then. Had she forgotten everything? By morning, I'd developed a pounding headache, my body physically rejecting the truth I couldn't escape. I called in sick to my volunteer position at the library and drove to Amanda's apartment building across town. The doorman recognized me and let me up, but no one answered when I knocked. I tried calling her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. As I waited in the hallway, a neighbor emerged from the adjacent apartment. "Are you looking for Amanda and Tom?" the woman asked. "They've been in and out all week with boxes. I think they're moving soon." My heart sank further. I thanked her and left sitting in my car as I scrolled through Amanda's social media. There it was, posted 3 days ago, a photo of her standing in front of the Westover Road house captioned, "Dreams coming true. Can't wait to share our big news soon. Dream home, blessed." The comments section was filled with congratulations and Amanda's vague responses about finalizing details and making big moves. One friend asked how they could afford such a place, to which Amanda replied with a winking emoji and smart investments. I sent Amanda a text, "We need to talk immediately. It's urgent." Hours later, she responded, "Super busy with clients today. Everything okay?" "No," I wrote back. "Everything is not okay. I know about the loan applications." A long pause. Then, "Not sure what you mean. Can we talk tomorrow?" We arranged to meet at a coffee shop downtown the next day. I barely slept that night, rehearsing what I would say, wondering how my daughter could do this to me. By morning, I felt hollow, running on nervous energy and betrayal. The coffee shop was busy when I arrived 15 minutes early. I chose a table in the corner, ordering tea I couldn't drink. Amanda arrived 20 minutes late, dressed in a designer suit, with new diamond earrings catching the light. She air-kissed my cheek before sitting down, placing her phone face up on the table. "Sorry I'm late, Mom, showing houses all morning." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. Behind her perfect makeup and confident smile, I saw tension in her eyes. "Amanda, I received calls from 3 different banks about mortgage applications I never filed. For a house on Westover Road." Her smile faltered slightly before returning. "That's strange. Must be some mix-up. They have my Social Security number, copies of my ID, tax returns, and forged signatures." Amanda glanced at her phone as it buzzed with a message. "That sounds like identity theft. You should file a police report." "I saw your Instagram post standing in front of that exact house." Her expression hardened. "Are you accusing me of something? Did you forge my signature on loan documents?" Amanda looked around the coffee shop, then leaned forward. "Mom, you don't understand. This was going to benefit both of us. The market's exploding in that neighborhood. We could have refinanced in a year and paid everything back." The confirmation struck like a physical blow. "You committed fraud using my name." "It's not fraud when it's family helping family," she hissed. "You don't need all that money anyway. Your house is paid off. You live on practically nothing." "It's my money, Amanda, my credit, my life you were gambling with." Her face flushed with anger. "After everything I've done for you since Dad died, I deserve this. Tom and I work so hard, but we can't get ahead with housing prices skyrocketing. You're just sitting on all that equity doing nothing with it. So you decided to steal it." "I wasn't stealing." Her voice rose, drawing looks from nearby tables. "It was an investment opportunity. The house would have appreciated enough to cover everything. You're so stuck in your small thinking, you can't see I was trying to build wealth for our family. By committing felony fraud, Amanda stood abruptly, gathering her purse. You never supported my dreams, never. Dad would have understood the opportunity. Your father would be heartbroken by what you've done. Whatever, Mom. When you calm down and want to actually discuss this rationally, call me. She stormed out, leaving me sitting alone, tears streaming down my face. An elderly man at the next table wordlessly handed me a napkin. Family troubles are the hardest kind, he said gently. Take it from someone who knows. I nodded, unable to speak, wondering how my life had shattered so completely in just 3 days. The week after the coffee shop confrontation was the worst of my life since losing James. My blood pressure spiked so high that my doctor wanted to put me on medication. I couldn't sleep more than 2 hours at a stretch, jolting awake with panic about losing my home and everything I'd worked for. Food lost all taste. I dropped 5 pounds in 7 days. Finally, I called Susan Abernathy, a lawyer who had helped with James's estate. Her office fit me in the next day, and I brought all the documentation I had gathered. I'm so sorry this is happening, Mabel, Susan said after reviewing everything. Unfortunately, familial identity theft is more common than people realize. What are my options? I asked, clutching a tissue. Legally, you have 2 paths. You can report this to the police as criminal fraud, which it is, or you can handle it privately and try to resolve it without involving law enforcement. If I don't report it, you'll likely remain liable for the loans. Your credit is already damaged. The banks could come after your assets, including your home, if these fraudulent loans default. I felt sick again. And if I do report it? Susan's expression was grave. Amanda could face serious criminal charges: forgery, fraud, identity theft. These are felonies with potential prison time. Prison. My voice broke. I don't want to send my daughter to prison. I understand, but consider this: the closing on that house is scheduled for next week. If it goes through, you'll be legally responsible for a $650,000 loan you never took out. And there may be more we don't know about yet. At Susan's suggestion, I pulled my full credit report. The results were devastating. 6 credit cards opened in my name over the past 3 months. A car lease agreement. Even a personal loan for $50,000. All with my forged signature. All linked to Amanda's address or email. The total fraudulent debt approached $800,000. I spent the next day canceling credit cards and filing disputes, sitting on hold for hours, while automated systems transferred me from department to department. Each conversation required explaining my own daughter's betrayal to strangers, each sympathetic murmur like salt in an open wound. That evening, my doorbell rang. It was a courier with an envelope containing preliminary closing documents for the Westover Roadhouse sent to my address by mistake. Inside was a complete paper trail of Amanda and Tom's scheme. They had created a shell company to purchase the house from themselves at an inflated price, using my stolen equity planning to extract cash while sticking me with the debt. I called Amanda again. Straight to voicemail. I texted. No response. Her Instagram, however, showed a new post, her and Tom at a fancy restaurant, champagne glasses raised. The caption read, "Celebrating big moves, new chapter." My neighbor Gloria came over that night when she saw my lights on at 2 a.m. She found me at the kitchen table, surrounded by paperwork, crying. "You need to call the police, Mabel," she said after I explained everything. "This isn't a misunderstanding. It's calculated theft." "She's my daughter," I whispered. "And you taught her better than this. What would James say?" The question hung in the air. I knew exactly what James would say. He'd be furious not just at the theft, but at the betrayal of values we'd worked so hard to instill. That night, I pulled out old photo albums. Amanda as a gap-toothed first grader, Amanda in her high school graduation cap, Amanda dancing with her father at a father-daughter dance, looking up at him adoringly. I found a Mother's Day card she'd made in third grade with a carefully drawn picture of us holding hands. "To the best mom ever," she'd written in careful cursive. "I promise to always make you proud." Where had that little girl gone? When had money and status become more important than honesty and family? As dawn broke, I made my decision. This wasn't just about money, it was about consequences, values, and ultimately what real love means. Sometimes the most loving thing a parent can do is allow their child to face the results of their actions. I called Susan's office the moment they opened and left a message. "I want to file a police report today." The Portland police station was busier than I expected for a Wednesday morning. I clutched a folder containing all my evidence as I waited on a hard plastic chair surrounded by people reporting stolen bicycles and fender benders. When Officer Johnson finally called my name, I followed him to a small interview room. He was younger than I expected, probably Amanda's age, with kind eyes that grew increasingly concerned as I explained my situation. "Identity theft is serious enough," he said, "but when it's perpetrated by family, it adds layers of complexity. Are you certain you want to proceed with formal charges? This will likely result in your daughter's arrest." I took a deep breath. "I'm certain this was deliberate and extensive. She's shown no remorse." For the next 2 hours, I provided statements, signed affidavits, and turned over copies of all the fraudulent documents. Officer Johnson explained that a detective from the Financial Crimes Unit would be assigned to investigate. "The good news, Ji," he said, "is that you've caught this before the house closing. We can freeze everything while the investigation proceeds." As I was leaving, he touched my arm gently. "Mrs. Harrington, I've seen many cases like yours. The hardest part is often the judgment from other family members. Prepare yourself." His words proved prophetic. That afternoon, I visited my bank to secure my remaining accounts and met with their fraud department. They were understanding and helpful, placing additional security measures on everything. Then I contacted the mortgage companies and credit card issuers with my police report number. Most were cooperative, though they warned that fully resolving everything could take months. At home, I changed all my passwords, ordered new credit cards, and installed a locking mailbox. As Officer Johnson suggested, I set up a dedicated notebook to document every conversation and action related to the case. The next day, I installed security cameras after noticing an unfamiliar car driving slowly past my house multiple times. That evening, the doorbell rang. It was Tom, Amanda's husband. I spoke to him through the doorbell camera. "I can't talk to you, Tom. Please leave." "Mabel, you're blowing this way out of proportion," he said, his voice artificially smooth. "We can fix this without involving the police." "It's already done. Please leave before I call them again." His face transformed with anger. "You have no idea what you've done. This isn't just about Amanda. There are people involved who don't appreciate complications." The implied threat sent chills down my spine. I called Officer Johnson immediately after Tom left, reporting the interaction. Within days, certified letters arrived from the court showing all the fraudulent accounts were under investigation. I sent a certified letter to Amanda explaining exactly what actions I had taken and why. Her response was a furious phone call at 11 p.m. "How could you do this to your own daughter?" she screamed. "They froze everything. The closing is canceled. The banks are investigating Tom's work accounts too. You've ruined everything. Amanda, you committed fraud. It's just money, just stupid money that you weren't even using. Now they're talking about pressing charges. My real estate license could be revoked. Is that what you want? To destroy my entire life? I want you to take responsibility for what you've done." "You sanctimonious bitch!" She spat the words like a slap. "Don't expect me to take care of you when you're old and sick." She hung up. I sat in the dark, my daughter's words replaying in my mind. Despite everything, they still hurt deeply. The next day, my sister Jane called from Arizona. "What in God's name are you thinking pressing charges against Amanda?" she demanded without preamble. "Hello to you too, Jane." "Tom called Robert in tears," she continued, referring to her husband. "Said you're having Amanda investigated for some misunderstanding about a loan." It wasn't a misunderstanding. She forged my signature on mortgage documents and opened fraudulent credit accounts totaling nearly $800,000. A pause. "Well, I'm sure she was planning to pay it all back." "That's not the point, Jane. She's your daughter Mabel, your only child. Family protects family, even from consequences of their own actions." Jane sighed dramatically. "James would be so disappointed in you." That was the breaking point. "Don't you dare tell me what my husband would think. James believed in integrity above all else. He would never condone what Amanda did." "You always were too rigid. No wonder Amanda felt she couldn't come to you directly." After hanging up, I cried for an hour. Then I found a local support group for victims of identity theft. At my first meeting, I was surprised to meet 3 other parents whose adult children had stolen their identities. Their stories helped me realize I wasn't alone, and more importantly, that my decision to report the fraud wasn't unforgivably cruel, as my family was suggesting. Carol, a woman whose son had opened multiple credit cards in her name, put it best. "It took me 2 years to understand that enabling him would have been the crueler choice. He needed to hit bottom before he could rebuild." With the support group's encouragement, I stood firm despite mounting pressure from extended family. Amanda and Tom had apparently contacted everyone, spinning a story that minimized their actions and maximized my overreaction. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years called to mediate. College friends of Amanda's sent me messages on Facebook asking how I could do this to my sweet daughter. Through it all, I maintained my resolve. This wasn't about punishment. It was about truth, about consequences, about breaking a cycle that would only worsen if left unchecked. Detective Rodriguez from the Financial Crimes Unit called weekly with updates. They were building a comprehensive case, discovering that the fraud extended beyond what I initially found. Amanda and Tom had apparently been living far beyond their means for years, juggling debt and increasingly desperate schemes. My identity theft was just the latest and largest attempt to stay afloat. As difficult as this period was, I found unexpected strength within myself. For perhaps the first time since James died, I was standing completely on my own, making difficult but necessary decisions. Though the circumstances were horrible, I felt a growing sense of clarity about who I was and what I valued. 3 weeks after filing the police report, Detective Rodriguez called with news. "We're ready to make arrests, Mrs. Harrington. Officers will be picking up your daughter and son-in-law tomorrow morning." Though I had known this was coming, hearing the words made it real in a new way. What happens next? They'll be processed and have an arraignment hearing, likely within 48 hours. The district attorney is charging them with multiple felonies, forgery, identity theft, attempted grand larceny, and conspiracy. The next day's local news included a small item about the arrests. By evening, it had grown into a larger story. Portland realtor and financial advisor, husband arrested in elaborate fraud scheme. A journalist had discovered that Amanda and Tom's case extended beyond my identity theft. They had apparently misused client funds as well. I turned off my phone after the 10th call from a reporter. The next morning, I found 3 of them on my front porch. I closed the blinds and called Susan. "This media attention was unexpected," I told her. "Unfortunately, it's not surprising. There's a public interest angle with their professions. People trust realtors and financial advisors with major life decisions." "What should I do?" "Nothing. You don't owe anyone a statement. Focus on yourself right now." Amanda's arraignment was scheduled for Friday. I debated attending, ultimately deciding I needed to see this process through. The courthouse was intimidating, all marble and echoing halls. I sat in the back row, a scarf partially obscuring my face. When they brought Amanda in wearing an orange jumpsuit, her hands cuffed in front of her, I nearly broke. She looked small, frightened, nothing like the confident woman I knew. Her eyes scanned the courtroom, landing on me with a mixture of surprise and something unreadable. The proceedings were brief. Charges read, pleas entered not guilty, bail discussed. Because of the dollar amount involved and Tom's alleged connections to what the prosecutor cryptically called other parties of interest, bail was set high. Neither Amanda nor Tom could post it. They were returned to custody. As I was leaving, a woman approached me in the hallway. Mrs. Harrington, I'm Jennifer Willis. The name meant nothing to me. I'm sorry to bother you, she continued. I was one of your daughter's clients. She handled my house purchase last year. Oh, I'm sorry this isn't a good time. Please, just 1 minute. I wanted to thank you for coming forward. After I bought my house, I discovered someone had taken out equity lines using my information. The police believe it was Amanda and Tom. If you hadn't reported them, they might have continued targeting people like me. Her words stayed with me as I drove home. How many others had been victimized? How long would Amanda and Tom have continued if they hadn't been caught? 2 days later, Detective Rodriguez requested another meeting. He arrived with a folder thicker than I expected. We've uncovered a pattern of fraudulent activity going back approximately 3 years, he explained. At least 7 other victims, mostly Amanda's real estate clients or Tom's investment clients. The district attorney is considering additional charges. And what does this mean for their case? It strengthens it considerably. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. It was a calculated criminal enterprise. The detective hesitated, then continued. There's something else you should know. We've found evidence that Tom has gambling debts to some concerning individuals. We believe that's where much of the fraudulent money went. Gambling. The word felt foreign, associated with my son-in-law, who had always presented himself as financially sophisticated. Significant sports betting, mostly, and some high-stakes poker games. He's in deep with people you don't want to owe money to. This new information stunned me. I wondered if Amanda had known, if she had been coerced or manipulated by Tom, or if she had been a willing participant from the beginning. I got my answer 3 days later when Amanda called from jail. The recorded message announced it was a collect call, giving me the option to accept or decline. Despite everything, I couldn't refuse my daughter's call. Her voice sounded small, stripped of its usual confidence. Mom, I'm here, Amanda. A shuddering breath. I really messed up. The simple admission broke something open between us. For the next 15 minutes, Amanda talked more honestly than she had in years. She admitted that she'd known about Tom's gambling for over 2 years. At first, she'd believed his promises to stop. Then she started helping him cover it up, using her real estate connections to access client information. What began as borrowing became outright theft as the debts mounted. I told myself we'd pay everyone back once Tom hit a winning streak, she said. But it never happened. It just got worse. Why didn't you come to me for help? A long pause. I was ashamed, and then, I don't know. Somewhere along the way, I started feeling entitled, like the world owed me the lifestyle I wanted. And Tom, he left me. His lawyer told my lawyer he's claiming I masterminded everything. Her voice broke. He's going to testify against me for a reduced sentence. The betrayal within the betrayal didn't surprise me as much as it should have. Tom had always struck me as someone who prioritized self-preservation. What happens now? I asked. My public defender says with the evidence they have, fighting the charges would be futile. She's negotiating a plea deal. Amanda's voice cracked. Mom, I'm scared. I can't go to prison. For the first time since this began, I heard genuine remorse in my daughter's voice. Not just regret at being caught, but true understanding of the harm she'd caused. "I'll come visit you tomorrow," I said. "We'll talk about options." After the call, I sat in my garden thinking about choices and consequences. I didn't want Amanda to escape accountability, but neither did I want her life completely destroyed by a long prison sentence that would follow her forever. That night, I called Susan to discuss legal options. Then I called Detective Rodriguez with a proposal. 1 month later, I sat in a courtroom watching my daughter accept a plea deal. In exchange for full cooperation against Tom and his gambling connections, complete restitution to all victims, and guilty pleas to reduced charges, Amanda would serve 6 months in county jail, followed by 5 years of probation and 2,000 hours of community service. The judge addressed her directly before accepting the plea. "Ms. Harrington, you systematically betrayed people's trust, including your own mother's. The letters from your victims describe not just financial harm, but profound emotional damage. Do you understand the impact of your actions?" Amanda stood straight, her voice steady. "Yes, Your Honor, I do now, and I'm deeply sorry." "Your mother's advocacy was instrumental in this reduced sentence," the judge continued. "Without her intervention, you would be facing considerably more time. I hope you appreciate that second chance." "I do, Your Honor." As part of the agreement, Amanda surrendered her real estate license permanently and agreed to financial monitoring for 10 years. She would make monthly restitution payments once released, starting with minimum wage jobs, if necessary. Tom, facing additional charges related to his gambling connections, received no such leniency. His case was still proceeding, but he faced significant prison time. After the hearing, Amanda was allowed a brief meeting with me before being returned to custody. In a small conference room, we sat across from each other, a deputy standing discreetly by the door. "Why did you help me?" she asked. "After what I did to you." "Because punishment without rehabilitation isn't justice," I said. "And because you're still my daughter. I don't deserve your forgiveness." "This isn't about forgiveness yet. It's about giving you a path forward. What you do with it is up to you." She nodded, wiping away tears. "I'm going to make this right. Somehow." "One day at a time," I said, echoing the support group's mantra. As they led her away, Amanda turned back. "I'm sorry, Mom, for everything." For the first time since this ordeal began, I believed her. 6 months later, I waited outside the county jail as Amanda was released. She emerged carrying a small bag of belongings, thinner than I remembered her designer clothes, replaced by simple jeans and a t-shirt. When she saw me, she hesitated, uncertainty crossing her face. I stepped forward and hugged her. "Welcome back." The studio apartment I'd rented for her was small but clean, located above a bookstore in a quiet neighborhood. It was within walking distance of the community center, where she would complete her community service hours, and the diner, where she'd secured a job as a server. "It's not what you're used to," I said as I showed her the space. "It's perfect," she replied, running her hand along the simple IKEA table. "It's more than I deserve." The early days of Amanda's re-entry were challenging. She struggled with the shame of serving coffee to people who recognized her from news stories. The strictly monitored restitution payments took most of her modest income. Tom, now serving an 8-year sentence, had filed for divorce from prison. But there were victories, too. Amanda joined a gambling addiction support group, even though her issues had been materialism and entitlement, rather than gambling directly. "Being around Tom normalized addiction," her therapist explained, "and compulsive spending has similar patterns." 3 months after her release, Amanda asked if we could attend family therapy together. In those sessions, painful truths emerged. She talked about the pressure she'd felt growing up as an only child, trying to fulfill both her own dreams and what she perceived as our expectations. I acknowledged ways I might have enabled her materialistic tendencies, from too many childhood indulgences to financing her extravagant wedding. I think after Dad died, I used money to fill the emptiness, she admitted during one session. Nothing felt as secure as having more. And I wanted to give you everything because you were all I had left of James, I replied. Slowly, we rebuilt trust through honesty and consistent actions. Amanda never missed a restitution payment, even when it meant taking on additional work. She completed her community service hours at a financial literacy program for low-income women, eventually developing a specialized curriculum about avoiding predatory lending. A year after her release, Amanda was promoted to manager at the diner. The owner, a gruff man named Frank, who had hired her despite knowing her background, appreciated her work ethic and organizational skills. "You've got a good head for business," he told her. "Just needed to point it in the right direction." For my part, the ordeal transformed me as well. I became an advocate for senior financial protection, speaking at community centers about identity theft prevention. I started a support group specifically for parents whose adult children had betrayed their trust financially. The group grew quickly, revealing how common yet hidden this particular pain was. I also discovered painting, something I'd always wanted to try, but never made time for. Every Tuesday night, I joined a class at the community college, losing myself for hours in color and composition. My instructor encouraged me to enter a local art show where I sold 3 pieces. On the 2nd anniversary of Amanda's arrest, we had dinner at my house. As we cleared dishes afterward, she paused. "Do you think you'll ever fully trust me again?" she asked quietly. I considered the question carefully. Trust isn't binary, Amanda. It's built in layers over time. We're rebuilding those layers. She nodded. "That's fair. More than fair." "Your actions these past 2 years speak volumes," I added. "You've honored every commitment. You've taken responsibility without excuses. That matters." "Sometimes I still can't believe what I did," she confessed. "It's like looking back at a different person." "In many ways, you are a different person now. We both are." Our relationship would never return to what it had been before. The betrayal had permanently altered its foundation. But what was emerging was perhaps more authentic, built on hard-earned wisdom, rather than assumptions and unspoken expectations. Amanda continued her steady progress. After 2 years at the diner, she began taking night classes in accounting, discovering she had a talent for numbers when not misusing them. Though permanently barred from securities and real estate work, there were many other fields where her skills could be ethically applied. The court eventually modified her probation terms to allow her limited financial management responsibility as she demonstrated consistent trustworthiness. The restitution payments continued, with every victim gradually being made whole. As for me, I found unexpected peace in standing up for myself. For too long after James died, I'd lost my voice, becoming passive in my own life. The terrible circumstances of Amanda's betrayal had forced me to rediscover my strength and values. We held a small gathering when the last restitution payment was made. Gloria was there, and Frank from the diner, and several members of both our support groups. It wasn't a celebration exactly, but an acknowledgement of a difficult journey and the growth that had come from it. Amanda raised a glass of sparkling cider. "To accountability," she said, "and second chances." I added my own toast, "and to the understanding that real love sometimes means hard truths." Later, as guests were leaving, Amanda handed me an envelope. Inside was a hand-drawn card reminiscent of those she'd made as a child. It showed 2 figures walking along a path, one helping the other over rough terrain. "Thank you for not giving up on me," she'd written, "even when giving up would have been easier." I've learned that parental love isn't just about protection and provision. Sometimes the most profound act of love is allowing natural consequences while still offering a path to redemption. Amanda's journey isn't over, nor is mine. Trust builds slowly tested and strengthened by time and consistent actions. But I now believe that what broke between us can be healed not to its original form, but to something perhaps stronger in the mended places. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have reported your own child to protect yourself or tried to handle things privately? Leave a comment below with your thoughts. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences about family forgiveness and finding strength in difficult times. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most meaningful growth.